To order at the meeting of the tax increment reinvestment zone number 1. It is 2:40 and we're calling the meeting to order. Let's go ahead and begin with roll call.
Patty Goldberg. Arturo Garcia.
Present.
Martin Aleman. Present. Nathan Biden. Henry Sabinet.
Here.
Benjamin Quigg.
Present.
Carol Alexander.
Here.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Very good. In front of you, you have not only a copy of the agenda, but a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. If you'll take a couple of seconds to go through them to determine if there are any questions you might have, corrections, changes.
Motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented?
There's a motion to accept the meetings as presented.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed. Item number 4, citizen comments. Do we have the citizen registration cards with us?
Nobody is here from the.
Here they are.
Outside.
And if you'll go ahead and just fill one out, Jose, would appreciate it. And recognize. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to recognize Jose Ceballos, who has a couple of comments to make to us.
Sure. A couple of things, and today I'm going to speak a little bit about the conference center project. First thing is we'd like to, at some point in the near future, maybe your next meeting, be able to make a presentation. I know I've been coming and giving you some verbal updates, but we'd like to go through maybe something a little more comprehensive. With the referendum proposition that is supposed to drive revenue for the project, we certainly would like an opportunity to kind of discuss that with the entire board. So that's first our request to you, Henry, to maybe set that up for us. Secondly is, as we formulate our plan, we all know that downtown needs a lot of attention, needs to be redeveloped. We know that, I think all of us would agree that without a redevelopment and revitalization, most things that come downtown will not be sustainable. So in trying to get all the stakeholders together by way of this project, and we're going to start doing that a little more in an organized fashion. You will see us in terms of trying to lead, and as I say we, I represent the private partner in the project, which is Fasken Palafox Hospitality. So you will see us try to help organically, make folks or ask folks to join, communicate, and kind of create some synergy from everybody. So we think there's about 12 to 14 organizations that are either nonprofits and generally they're nonprofits, either operating downtown or affected downtown, whether it be housing, Main Street, Center for the Arts, historical related. So all of and the mall. So we're going to hopefully in the next few weeks try to convene our first meeting. The other part of it is there's some very low-hanging fruit right now and all of us know what that is, from sidewalks to opening up parking lots, from engaging the business owners. There are a few businesses that have been in downtown, off Iturbide and other places, is to engage them further, to identify what are some of the things that we could do for them that perhaps don't cost too much money, and that we could start seeing some success and calling attention to downtown as we get further out into this campaign and at least into our project. We have with the project, we have some things coming to a head in terms of finance and budgets. The scope for the center is going to be better defined over the next 2 weeks. We will know much more because we have a number that we're working towards. We're working with in terms of costs. We'll know what the scale and scope of that project will be. We've got some other contingencies related to the riverfront property, and how that can play, and what other options may appear. So those are some things in terms of this board. I think it was you that mentioned last time, maybe visiting. I think you said we ought to go
Field trip.
field trip. I would like to coordinate a field trip. A couple of us did that, and I've been to They Could Be the Strip before, but we did that as an exercise. It was early, it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock, early for that scene. Apparently everybody gets out now at 10:30, 11. Tells you how old I am, but in any case, I think that exercise would be a very good one. Particularly, we saw some overgrown trees, the things that I call low-hanging fruit. The city immediately after we contacted the city, they acted pretty quickly the next day, frankly. And they went out on a Saturday and trimmed most of the strip. There's one block that's left. There's other things that need updating. We got benches. I'm speaking purely about it. Could be benches that are, some of them may need some, just boards need to be replaced. There's one particular one just needs to be replaced completely. Simple things, old telephone stalls, just that are remain. Simple things that I think if we all just got organized, both the private side and the public side could work together and begin to address that. I think in fairness to the city, we ought to be encouraging the private folks to help. Lighting, for us, it was late at night. We got to meet with at least two bar owners at either side, happy hour and on the rocks. And we had a good chat. They're both very positive, trying to grow into an eatery, a pizza place, the other one looking at other options in and around it. So just inviting us, if we could all get together and meet and experience it. They brought up lighting issues. There are, and depending on which block, like where On the Rocks is, there isn't really public lighting per se because their canopies are all reaching into the walkway, into the sidewalk. But once you get to the next block, I think there's plenty of posts for lighting, but we had trees covering a lot of that illumination. So I think that will improve. So we're seeing. I think even just with the trimming that went on over the Saturday, I think you see some improvement. So the invitation's there, and certainly we can coordinate and get out there on any particular night. The other piece is, and there's different, I call it low-hanging fruit, but you're talking about just cleaning the street. We have a parking situation that all of you are aware, folks that leave their car and then go to Mexico. You'll see that closer to Convents, people dropping off their car, and the late night scene gets affected. But I think also the street clean gets affected, because the next day when we went back, we could still see that parts of that street hadn't been cleaned. And even if the street sweeper was out, it wouldn't have got to it because there was cars parked there. So from a policy side, those are things that we can start evaluating. Parking. So we've been, I personally and a couple of us have been visiting with Bishop Tamayo about opening up the church's parking lot. Several months back, he agreed that it would be a good plan to do so. We provided.
Which is I'm sorry, the only parking lot I know that is associated with the church is the one that's adjacent to the church.
That's correct.
Is there another?
Yeah, they have another one on the other side too.
Oh.
On the north side of the church.
Okay.
It's west of Siete Banderas, it's attached to Siete Banderas.
Okay.
The larger one.
Okay, I didn't know that belonged to the church.
It's gated and they sell spots there.
Okay.
It's about 80-some spaces,
Okay.
there, 86 or so.
Apparently they're sold out.
The other one is right on Iturbide, that's a city parking lot. So I understand that there's direction to open that one, but that they're waiting on equipment to be able to, the kiosks to be able to collect. So I think all of us as stakeholder groups, I think if we can all get aligned and create some synergy would be helpful. I personally, since I'm either going to La Posada or Tap Room or whatever, I get to see what happens in terms of where folks, I sometimes have to park over by GB if there's an event. That's too far. Especially, well, I say that's too far, but my point is you have 80-some spaces there would be very helpful. So that engagement with the diocese has begun. We've had several meetings. We'll continue to make other continued requests, and, you know, and again, we got a yes, it's just a matter of coordinating, and they also wanted to find out what equipment they could use to collect, right, instead of having a person there.
So I take it the church has leased out the spaces for daytime, for office time parking, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So-
then they lock that gate.
yeah,
At
they
night?
lock. Yeah.
Okay, so then,
Instead, so when you're
So then at
going
night you
to
can't use it?
Pitt Street, that, all those valuable parking spaces.
You just drive
because I
around.
always see it empty, but now I realize it's full in the daytime, but not okay.
The other part of just talking to each other is there's a lot of people, like I'm sure your group and other, that are working to do very similar things that what I've just
Right.
talked about, is getting us all to talk to each other so we can coordinate. So in any case, at least there's movement, right? If the city can actually open that space soon, that can be very helpful even for Jamboozy and other things, right? And we heard from folks, again, I don't know if this is, I don't have any data or reports to show this, but the bar owners are saying that they're hearing different bars have applications in the area right now. I don't know how true that is, but in any case, they're gonna find themselves with some of these similar issues. I think if, until we get some sort of a better organization in terms of what a plan would be to redevelop, the strip Iturbide, Zaragoza, you know, those are very simple, clear, I think, to me, thoroughfares, both for pedestrian and for vehicular, that we could work on. And I'm not suggesting that, you know, budget be carved out, but I am suggesting to work on that easy to attain,
Right.
cleanliness, lighting, tree trimming. I mean, the old misters, I mean, those things are like the mister itself is no longer there, but the tubes are just draping from and all throughout. So those are simple things that we can clean up. And I'm for city folks that are here is doing so together with the private sector, not putting it all on the city, right?
Right.
As an add-on is how do we do this together? Obviously, part of the interest is to see the conference center in its realization succeed for the good of the downtown, and kind of feeds itself.
So in response to your first part, I think we would welcome a presentation, just like we're hoping to get a presentation today from Viviana on the downtown plan and the master plan. Certainly, we'd like to hear the latest on the center. You know, one thing, it's good to help clarify it among this group, but also just clarify it in general. One of the biggest discussions, confusions I've heard is the complaint that a convention center is not going to be large enough. And then when I asked for more detail about what they plan to use it for, they confuse a convention center for a civic center.
That's right.
And I said they're two different animals. They're not the same thing. But you know, that kind of education is also important if you want buy-in.
And we will cover that. There's a significant, in the pro formas, there's significant use for local use, civic use. So it'll serve both roles, but we can clarify to you what percentage of use will be local and what percentage will be, tourist driven.
Well, you have to be careful also, because you keep on using the word civic center for that space, then it'll inevitably be too small, because you know it's not as large as it could be. But anyway, I look forward to hearing more of the presentation on that subject.
And two, I think what will also help is to understand the size. Right?
Yeah.
So we can cover that in the presentation. But I appreciate you allowing me the ability to share today, and I'll come back and update everyone if it's next month or whenever you. I know John Villarreal had asked us for a presentation on either the 26th or the 30th. So we will do that one and then follow it up with you all.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to mention that the record should reflect
let the record-
Mr. Nathan Bratton has joined us for the meeting.
Thank you. So let the record reflect that Nathan Bratton has joined the meeting.
Thank you all very much. I'm gonna.
Thank you, Seth. We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. So I think this is probably something for a meeting for down the line, maybe not next month, but sooner than later as we move forward, because the convention center is specifically mentioned in the TIRZ document itself. So it will help to learn more about
And
them.
maybe even before the election.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
September, October.
very good, very good. Any other comments? I know he's taken off, but any other comments as to what Jose had mentioned or spoke about?
I would like to comment that if he could achieve that coordination of efforts downtown, it'd be a huge,
It would be something,
it'd be a really helpful.
I agree. I don't see it as a, obviously I don't see that's a TIRZ function, because the TIRZ function is very specific, but the TIRZ would benefit from those meetings. I mean, if he's identified 14 stakeholders in the downtown area, that's interesting. I'd like to be attending those meetings as an aside anyway. So, yeah, I think that's a good, I'd like to keep track of that as well.
Well, I guess one of my comments is to that, it's kind of dovetails to that, is that email I sent about a possible meeting with downtown stakeholders, but I already forgot when it was.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
yeah,
I think we're drifting, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, we're drifting on.
There's something on the agenda for that, yeah. So what we'll do is we'll follow up with, Jose on setting up the meeting that he's proposed, or the presentation he's proposed,
And the field trip.
and the field trip as well. Very good. That was item number 4. Item number 5 is discussion and possible action to report on the request for qualification for a consultant to assist the TIRZ board with implementing the project plan and reinvestment zone financing plan, including project identification, project design, professional services procurement, bylaws, and TIRZ administration for the tax increment reinvestment zone number 1.
Was that to report or to repost?
I'm sorry, repost, my mistake. But can we have a report on the reposting?
Well, can we have a report on the results of the initial post?
On the initial post, and the repost.
Anyone with that?
Well, we got no one replied, and purchasing is asking if there's somebody in particular that we might want to send it if we repost, to make sure that we would, I guess, reach out from possible somebody that might be interested.
And we can do that?
How many, how was the outreach? You described it to me, could you
Yeah,
describe it
it
one
was
more
done
time?
through the e-bit electronically, and then they also send it to a list of, should have brought that list, about maybe 8 or 10 individuals on that email that he mentioned, locally as well.
I think they were mostly engineering firms.
Okay, I don't remember all the names.
Yeah,
but-
if I remember correctly, they're engineering firms, and they're not going to respond.
Yeah.
So any thought on the lack of interest to submit anything?
I just don't think anybody saw it. I think what we had to do is give them a list to send out specifically,
Yeah,
include the various consultants that we've already dealt with, plus any other consultants that we can find that typically do this type of work, so that they're aware of it.
every once in a while, Nathan's correct, we just don't get.
Every once in a while, I'm correct, thank you.
No, every once in a while.
Let the record
For the record.
Every once in a while.
I don't think I'm Nathan. No, but every once in a while we get postings and we don't get any stuff, so we just gotta repost them.
Okay.
So,
It hasn't been suggested, and the question is, will it be reposted for the same amount of time?
You can change the time if you want.
No,
You
just,
can go ahead and
I-
go for 45 or
And
more.
when,
I'd go
and
for a
when,
minimum of 30 days. You can go larger if you want.
What about the second part to what you just said, that if there's anybody that we want to just reach out to
Well, we're
without,
saying that if we were to give purchasing a name of, previous consultants or anybody that we might know of, we can request them, because they might not be registered as a vendor, or they might not be somebody that has done business with us recently, so they might have not seen it. I mean, at church, it's not like there's constantly church,
Right.
so they might have not been aware, so if we do know of a specific vendor that we want to reach out to, we can go ahead and
but then
send
it would
that
still
out
have
to
to
them.
go through the RFQ process, even though we identify a specific
Of
firm?
course.
Yes.
I'm would think so. This is-
Procurement
It's just kind of
policy.
like FYI, you want to
Right,
apply.
heads up, look at
Right.
this, yeah.
Oh, yeah, if
I didn't know if it fell into some certain category, because it's already been posted and nobody responded.
No.
Okay.
You go through the process.
So then I'd like to suggest that it be posted for an additional, let's say 45 days, and send out, have the board, in particular, the public sector, you use the various methods you already use, because you have the contacts to the eBid or iBid system, but we can also use our contacts that we have, we know a number of people out there in the private sector that may be on that list, and encourage them to do it.
Were the local architectural firms aware?
I would imagine they
Is
should
it-
have been.
It's kind of like what's
This is
next.
certainly something.
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
This is somebody to actually help the board with all the details
Oh,
of
yeah.
how you run the TIRZ and helping get those specs ready and those kinds of things. I mean, when you get to the point where you're gonna start doing your actual improvements downtown, then, I mean, you'll have a lot of
Right,
architects.
yeah, I guess I-
Every architect in Laredo will be
It's a coordinator,
talking to you.
it's a coordinator of sorts, but someone.
Yeah, Sue Darcy.
Yeah.
That's one that I'm gonna ask, that was.
Yes. So we're going to make sure that firm gets the heads up on this as well.
But I mean, it's pretty easy, just go and figure out who's a consultant for the TIRZ in San Antonio, and for Oslo.
That's exactly what-
Just send it out.
Martina and I talked about, I said, we've been in touch, I've been seeing the names of the people who worked on the TIRZs in San Antonio, I just never thought to contact them. Maybe they saw it, maybe they
Yeah,
didn't.
just pass it on to Martin.
But you
he'll
would
give it
think-
to- he'll give it to,
exactly. And all the other
Your
communities
best
that
effort,
worked on the
maybe.
TIRZs.
It's better if you do it through him
Yeah,
rather than contacting him directly.
we'll do that.
So we'll just give him the name. and he-
Just give him the name.
Yeah, just give me the names and we'll see if we can, because now that it's electronic, you can even tell which firms.
And actually, though, the reason why we have a little bit of knowledge on this is because the city secretary's office publicly acknowledges all of the bids that were presented. And the way it works is that whoever's interested as an entity or as a vendor, they contact the purchasing department with Enrique Aldape. He has a database in which he manually inputs the name of the vendor, and this is a general procedure in which once there's a proposal or there's like a bid, they submit a notice to everyone. So it's up to them to be checking their email on a daily basis or go through, I don't know whether they're registered or not, there is access to check what bids are due and all that stuff, but I could go ahead and check for this particular project. When was it due or when was it?
I don't think it's on this.
Because there we could see, identify who saw the proposal and who declined the notice. Was it like a month
At
ago
TIRZ.
or
Yeah,
a month ago?
it's been within a month.
In August, the first week of August, it was like, it was not on the first, it was right after. That's what I was looking for, the email that he sent me. So,
July, correct? Okay, curious. Okay, so there were 3, 4, 5, 6 companies that viewed the proposal. And in the and also we need to understand that since it's sent to all of the vendors that are registered with the city of Laredo, there might not be a specific, this might be either construction companies or
Right.
like numerous vendors. So it was Castillo Electric Facility Service, GNS Office Designs, Halo Branded Solutions, Legacy Appraisals and Consulting, If Enterprise, and Maximum Painting LLC. So I don't know if they're actual companies that.
That's everybody that just looked at the
Yes.
RFQ?
3, 4, 5, 6. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's it.
They're all construction.
All right,
Okay. So then, can the chair make a motion? Can I turn my comment into a motion, or just a, I'm not sure if this committee allows the chair to make the entertain the
I
motion.
think there's an.
Okay,
If you want that.
then I can entertain the motion that we go ahead and
Can't
repost.
make a motion.
Well, that's what I just finished asking.
Well, I just wanted to see what everybody says.
Oh.
The chair can't make a motion. Ben can make a motion for you.
Well,
Right, well, that's,
Right.
What were you looking to do?
I would like to,
Who's the vice chair?
well, here, the chair's still speaking. So I'd like to receive a motion from the floor for someone to repost the position for 45 days.
I'd like to motion,
You'd like to move.
Mr. Henry, the chair just mentioned.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign? No opposed. Okay. So the motion carries. It'll be posted for another 45 days. And encourage everybody to submit submit recommendations to Martin so that the same list doesn't go out.
Can you remind me how to find that,
How to find.
that posting?
The events, it's on the city website, events, purchasing.
If you want
It's
to
one of the
forward,
icons.
if you want,
The
we can
credit
forward
from
an email
the
to the committee with the information, contact from that's Enrique Alabe's contact information, and also I'll share the link so you can also create a profile.
Computer.
Yeah. But I'll go ahead
I was
and
gonna bring it up on the screen, but.
forward the link, of course, so you all
Yeah,
can see it as
no,
well.
no.
But as long as I get the names, I'll go ahead and make sure that we provide them. And if you have a specific email, that would help. That way they can go ahead and mail the same information to them.
Very good.
But for sure, the one we discussed, CDS, I'll go ahead and make sure that they receive the information.
Any other discussion on item 5?
So what would be do we have an end date? Can we do that?
And Wednesday 1.
Wednesday 1? So if we go, how long does it take to get it back on there? Does it have to be a Monday? Does it matter?
It does have to go through the whole process again. It needs to get posted. The notice to bidders needs to be signed by the city secretary's office, and it also needs to be published in the newspaper for everyone. Because not only do they get an email, but they're also notified via the newspaper. So a lot of the vendors go like the old-fashioned way. They go through the newspaper and they see the notice to bidders.
Yeah, so I'd like to know when it's in the newspaper.
So what's the earliest it will be posted?
How long does that take?
I think
If it
by the
starts
end of
tomorrow.
next week would probably be.
Within the next 10 days.
Okay. So basically, we posted sometime the last week of August.
I would think that by next Friday,
The 24th?
24th can be done. for sure.
Okay.
So then 45 days after that.
How
We
should
should count
24?
45 days.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
Oh, but so 45 days is going to put us way into,
It does put us in there. This is such an important position.
yeah.
And we really need to get this on board and get this
October.
person working.
That'll be about October the 8th.
It's Columbus Day. FYI.
October 12th is called.
Since see no further discussion, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Item 6, which was a review and discussion of the project plan and reinvestment zone financing plan for the tax increment reinvestment zone number 1 and the Viva Laredo Comprehensive Master Plan. we had assigned ourselves the project, the task of reviewing these two documents and asking any questions, if we had any questions here. The idea was that the item after that would be helpful in answering any questions we might have with the Viva Laredo Comprehensive Master Plan. But Viviana Frank is not here because of the meeting she's attending right now. So it looks like even if we had questions related to the Viva Laredo Comprehensive Master Plan, I'm sure many of the city folks here could answer them, but I don't know if the other board members have any questions.
Questions on the Viva Laredo Comprehensive Master Plan?
Or, here, the idea was to review both documents.
Right.
We gave ourselves the assignment of reviewing both documents and coming up with questions if we had any. And that's when Viviana recommended, offered to make a presentation or answer any questions we may have regarding the plan.
And how this fund is funded, right?
How this,
where our monies come from.
no,
Yeah.
well, we can answer that question here because,
I can tell you how that, I mean, obviously, based on the geographical area that had been identified in the plan, any new increase in values as of the base year that was.
Yeah, no, I wasn't asking, I was saying that was part of our
or
homework.
discussion.
I thought that was part of our homework.
So part of our homework was to review that plan,
To
correct?
review
Yes.
And if there's any questions or comments or things that we'd like to see differently, how would that be handled?
Well, I don't think there's a lot of,
I don't think there's room for
movement. I mean, I think it's pretty rigid, what we can and can't do.
if you'll recall, we wanted to see how they were good, the overlay. In other words, seeing how this task, also what were the tasks from the Viva Laredo plan,
Okay.
so that what we would be doing was we would be making recommendations that overlaid with the TIRZ and the Viva Laredo plan, so that we didn't leave Viva Laredo out of the picture and they didn't go through the whole process of Viva Laredo, downtown planning, etc.,
Okay.
and not take that into consideration when we're talking about the TIRZ and TIRZ projects.
Well, I think if we put both the presentation that Mr. Ceballos mentioned earlier and Viviana together would probably be a good deal. For next month, we can do that.
I'd like that very much. Is that something you think you can coordinate for us?
Yes, and I know both of them have approached me individually as well during the month that they were willing to make that presentation, so I can have both of them come in the next meeting first.
Yeah.
Our next meeting is, it's the second Tuesday,
Second
correct?
Tuesday,
So September 11th, wow.
and that would be at 5:30.
September 1?
11, 9/11.
Oh.
5:30 here?
Yes.
I think were we gonna see how the TIRZ monies could help?
Like if the comprehensive master plan already has stuff identified that the TIRZ
Right.
can,
Pay
just
for it.
like that low
Make
hanging
it
fruit
happen.
type
Yeah.
stuff,
Like the sidewalks that are,
or lighting or tree trimming or September 11th.
Okay. So then we're gonna target September 11th for both their presentations. Hopefully they both can do them, and if not, at least maybe one of them will actually be here.
so I think our Jambuzzi is September 8th.
Yes.
and-
Sorry.
Yeah, and so maybe we can do a field trip before then somehow. Maybe. I'm gonna create an agenda for a field trip.
Would you do
You have
that?
to bring your walking shoes.
Would you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be great.
And can you make that recommendation at the next meeting so we can plan for it?
Or you were talking about trying to do it before the next meeting, right?
Right, just
Oh,
maybe just.
before the
kind
next
of
meeting.
Informal.
Informal, well,
But-
I don't know that we
Walking
can,
tour or
Can-
something?
oh,
We-
yeah,
It
we
will
can do.
have a.
let me ask someone who would, sorry, now I'm gonna turn to the expert.
Yes.
is it a specially called meeting and enough of us get together? Can you do that?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and what if it's not just for what if it's open to other people's?
But as long as you have a quorum,
Oh, we still
you've
have,
called a
okay.
meeting.
Okay.
So, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
You just need to post on where you're gonna be at though.
So,
So you should call it a special call meeting workshop.
Or what if it's, or is it better to not have a quorum?
Oh, you can have a quorum,
No.
just make sure you post it.
Right. Yeah, I was just noting the
Well,
point. We have to.
Post it, meet here, start here, and
You can delineate
Walk.
the area, and then when you post it, say that, we're
yeah,
gonna
that's
start
what I was
here,
gonna do, the
and we're
agenda.
gonna go this area here, so that way everybody's aware where we're gonna be going.
But which day? Thursday night? Saturday morning?
Thursday
What's the
night.
day?
Oh, we could do it connected to the,
Well,
maybe to
I
the
think,
farmer's market.
I'm gonna recommend something that you probably know, I'm out here downtown late at night all the time, because of,
So that bar that's over there?
yeah, it's not one in particular, but it's interesting to see that there's a lot of issues at night, in terms of lighting,
Lighting.
kind of dark areas.
Jose mentioned that as well, so maybe that's not a bad idea if we do a,
Like 10 o'clock-ish, something like that,
Well, can't you get the,
9 o'clock,
Maybe-
something, as soon as it gets dark, just, it doesn't have to be
can't you
late
get
night.
the trolley or one of the city
Yeah, no, we wanna.
bus? Yeah, but you can go, get out and walk, come back to the bus so that
You
you
can
can,
arrange something like that.
don't have to
I
walk.
mean, I sure we can.
A party
I
bus?
just feel that's not,
Well,
Is
part of
it-
it too
you
is,
can touch
the
regular
walking
area.
piece of it is a different thing too, the
Right.
sidewalks, seeing how bad the sidewalks are.
Yeah.
But you don't have to walk from here all the way around. You can
Yeah,
walk
no.
over here, get out, walk, get back on the bus, go to another side, walk. Unless you just want to walk the whole thing,
We have to
then
walk the whole thing.
good luck.
well, actually, when you're planning it,
Because one of our goals is to create a
I mean,
walkable downtown.
no, but Nathan points raises a good point. So when we design it, what we're designing is we're deciding where we're walking as well. So just take into consideration that we'll be walking. And so I'm exaggerating, but let's not go from one end of the church to the other end of the
Oh, no.
church. You know,
We just concentrate on the main area and then.
it makes sense. That's what I'm just saying. But when we're planning the walking, let's make it walkable. That's it.
You know, one of the,
We have the
because
priority
this,
area,
this,
and
Yes, we do.
What-
I think we should just,
like the
Reinforce it
Ecovita
and then
is a topic, right? But the topic to follow the path of our visitors from the south, that's important, I believe, to follow the trek of our visitors, what they have to do coming north and what they go through going south. And the way.
Which visitors are you talking about?
They're all apparently there's 12,000 people that cross our bridge.
Right, but remember,
Pedestrians, pedestrians.
so we have a primary impact zone for the TIRZ. And if we have a primary impact zone, I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to stick to that zone to start with. And the primary impact zone, it's northern, it's not necessarily Lincoln because it's really halfway between Lincoln and Iturbide, the half block that faces Iturbide, all of the block between Iturbide and Grant, and all of the block between Grant and Zaragoza, and those are your north-south. And then your east-west boundaries are Santa Maria and Flores.
So Salinas is in there. Salinas and Zaragoza.
Salinas,
Yes.
Zaragoza, and Convent.
Yeah, so convent. So that would be, I guess, because we need a couple of field trips, so we're not dragging people all over the place because the topic is different. So the topic on Iturbide Street, right, is entertainment, nightlife, and whatnot. But the topic over here in Salinas, Zaragoza, Convent is pedestrian traffic and.
I would almost
I
say,
think-
we start off at.
Just so you can see it, that's what, that yellow
plaza.
zone we're talking about. Why don't we start, I'm sorry, you were gonna do the same thing I was gonna do, make that recommendation.
I would recommend that we plan, and, based on board input, we start at the plaza, at San Agustin Plaza, go west all the way to Santa Maria,
Right,
and then.
go up,
then go up to Grand, come back, and then come back on into the.
I think that's a great idea.
Just, or zigzag, either S, one and two, just kind of just go do that.
And that, we're walking the various
And
streets.
you're within one block of each other, we see something in between the blocks, we can just go see it.
Right. Okay,
Just to get a good perspective of it.
Carol, will you work that out?
Yes, but I might not, because I
Well,
think there should be an objective to our
I'll
walk.
let you decide, but let's work within that zone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very
Or
good.
you work within the primary zone.
Very good.
Right.
You develop however you want to do it.
Okay, so then we'll be
I think we should
working on
post it.
that special called
Yeah, that's a good idea.
field trip, or whatever we end up calling it, a workshop.
Good field.
And then at the next meeting, Martin, you'll help us with the Jose and the Vivian. So that covers items 6 and 7. There are no other items to be given.
Right, so that means we can't talk about other stuff?
What else do you want?
Well, I guess we have to adjourn.
Well, no, we're still here, we still have a quorum, so you can't adjourn and talk.
Well, if you're thinking about them already, you should bring them up so that way we can put them on the next agenda.
Okay, on the next agenda, I think we should have a, I'm not saying, if you all agree, that we have
Just put them on there.
a tax balance of where we stand with our balance.
I'll bring an update on that.
Actually, Martin, I think that had been raised already as a running report at all of our meetings.
Yeah, we had said that I was gonna put it every month. So
Right.
Finance update.
Yeah, just like either number one, what's our balance? And then number two, if there's any like if there's downtown projects that the city knows about, or I don't know, maybe this doesn't get on there, but like, there's a couple of utility projects going on right now, and I don't know if we knew about them or if anybody knew about them. And I just, would like to know if there's something that goes through the city that's gonna affect downtown, that the board
What kind of utility projects are going on right now?
I don't know. They're replacing some water line on Zaragoza Street. I know that, and they closed off a bunch of roads. And then they replaced that water line on,
Grant, it's for the
On
new,
Grant.
part of what was being done, I don't know, I don't recall, but the grant was the one that, the new line is going to the facility.
But didn't
Yeah, Rhea
didn't we have Rhea in here a while back and he gave us a list of all projects?
yeah, those weren't one of them. To my knowledge.
Well, I know in one of the meetings we was here,
Wouldn't hurt that we have like a running monthly update on.
right now,
Which project
what
they own?
I'm looking for
Yeah.
from them is what we discussed as far as them trying to get a map with, what AP provided and what they already have as far as lines, but,
Well,
I mean, we
AEP,
can bring them every.
like AEP in the minutes, it's very clear in the minutes, AEP says that they're done. They're done with downtown.
Right, no, but what I'm saying, is what we wanted to do is we asked for an overlay between what they had done downtown. So if they're done downtown, we know what they're not gonna touch what they're not gonna,
Right.
but they've already worked on, and we were gonna overlay it with
The
Rhea's
utilities.
information, so that we saw where there was an overlay, so that we knew at least that section, if we were planning anything, wasn't going to be touched again, at least in the near
I don't see
future.
why we can't request a monthly update where they're gonna be
And
at.
maybe right now it's not that important because we don't have like a project we're gonna start next week.
Right.
But if we did have one and then all of a sudden someone comes and upstate a water line or something, or we don't know about it, then,
Well, like Bamboo's is coming up, so we could see sometimes we have surprise, work.
Right.
That we didn't know about.
And I just remind you, that's the reason we asked for these 2 reports and the overlays. And actually has to have it mapped out so that when we are talking, not necessarily event related, but project related, where I'll use the convention center as an example, that's gonna be built, we'll already know what's been done in that area underground, so that if anybody's making another recommendation. So that map is necessary. Whenever the real gets done with the overlay, that would be an important map for us to just look at and share.
I mean, the other thing in reference to that is, I mean, I know we send out emails, I can go ahead and forward some of those emails when they're announcing the project.
What is that? What is that?
Who do we have
city
on staff
email
that's
that comes out?
coordinating any of the meetings? Is it
Blast.
Laura?
Any of the what?
The meetings, is it
Tell me
Laura?
that.
Well, that was helping me.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Um, Would it be possible,
That, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
tell me
tell me
that.
that.
I mean, I would suggest that
Oh, Tom, the text, yes.
a week before a scheduled meeting, that Laura send out an email to Public Works, Utilities, who else? Maybe AEP, Time Warner, AT&T, get those contacts, and just send out an email saying, please provide us any information regarding any projects that are scheduled in the downtown area within the next 90 days. And then she does that every meeting. Her meetings are monthly. That way you'll have a 90-day lookout. Now, they may not respond, I mean, they may not tell you anything,
Right.
but at least you made the attempt.
Right.
So I would suggest this as a matter of course, you say, please let me know by X date of any projects scheduled in the downtown area for the next 90 days. And then you get Public Works will tell you what they're gonna be doing, you get, and then you do it every month.
Right.
But you keep
Or-
it rolling
And
90
we're asking
days.
for 90 days out anyway.
Yeah,
Very
so you'll
good.
have you
Excellent.
might get a better picture that way, you might not, I mean, it just depends on sometimes.
No, we're making the effort.
Well,
I think it'll help the board
but
understand.
if she could do that, like a week before the agenda goes out,
In case they want to get.
and give them a deadline, say, within the next, no later than such and such, please advise us, and that way she can put them on the agenda, or at least provide the information to the board members,
Yeah,
so that they can kind of see what's going on. If you don't get any, you don't get any, but she could include AEP, she can include theirs, get some may respond saying no, but at least you're getting it out there. And then when something does happen, you set up this pattern, and you can say, wait a minute, we've been asking for this information for the last X number of months. You aren't responding. But at least you've got that paper trail as well. And the
That's a
first-
start.
The
Yeah.
first time it happens where they didn't respond, it becomes an issue.
right, I just think we all need to be like, so like right now, no one really knows, I guess they're upgrading a water utility line, but for 3 weeks, type of deal. Or it might last longer, or they might expand,
Well,
or.
you're an engineer, is 90 days enough to look at, or should we be asking for a farther look at?
No, I mean, because I think a lot of the stuff that the utility department and public works department do are almost rushed. They're not capital improvement projects where they can forecast when they're gonna be there. It almost seems like we have an issue, let's go take care of it right away, type of deal. Because we have already identified that there are no capital improvement projects down in downtown. and then-
Understood, what I'm saying is do you think it should be 90 days, should be more than 90 days? I'm just gonna do it every month anyway.
I would just say 30 days, I mean, just so we get month to month to month. Like utilities department said, hey, this month we're gonna go and upgrade the water lines from this block to this block, and it's gonna take 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I guess that, I like the 90 days in the sense that if they have this idea and you can see if it's materializing or not, and it starts building some history, at least with what we're seeing, because I'm starting to get more familiar as I get more involved with utilities, but with this, I think it can also.
Yeah, that's
paint
fine,
a
I mean,
picture.
just as long as we're aware of, when someone starts turning up a street, we kinda already expected it.
Very good. So then in relation to future meetings, the committee will commission will be sending out a notice to the utilities,
Different utility.
et cetera, asking for any projects 90
So
days
the
out.
Public Works,
So that
Utilities,
they can report.
AEP, Time
Time
Warner,
Warner,
AT&T,
AT&T,
Entix,
and Tix. I don't know who else would be on there.
maybe
And
the
so do we-
stormwater,
Did
And
we
PDS, you have
finalize
border.
that the finance update would be a component of every agenda?
Yes, we did. And it has already been mentioned at a prior meeting, we just haven't
Right.
gotten that as a regular deal. Thank you, Mark, we appreciate it. That also falls on you.
yes.
See, you're gonna be happy when we bring someone on board, aren't you?
Well, that's why I kind of started talking about what I meant.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if it'll also be beneficial, it was brought up earlier in the meeting that some of those bar owners have over, or heard about other property owners submitting for building permits up in downtown, and I don't know if that's beneficial for us to know if there's activity, or can we help, or,
You can, well, there's been requests for building permits, as Victor was mentioning, the acting building department service director. He says that there's a lot of activity going on. In fact, there's been some requests for NEZs, but due to the requirements, they've opted, and for the timeliness of it, they've opted not to apply.
So-
For the It Street, like, for example, incentive. But he says that it's looking very positive, and since there's a lot of interest.
but is that something that the TIRZ board, should we be aware of this activity, or not?
I'm not saying we
It's
shouldn't be,
data.
yeah, so I don't think it's something we shouldn't be aware of. We should be aware of it.
The
But
trend.
I don't,
We need to.
yeah.
Because part of, there was a presentation about the NEZ and having the TIRZ maybe pick up some of the slack for the NEZ. Or the federal grant. Remember that for facades, I guess?
Oh.
Who does that go through?
That's through my department,
Okay.
but it's not something I would really.
That's not something the TIRZ board is.
Right, it was just, yeah, it was discussed as an idea of something that could be done, but that would have to be discussed.
TIRZ boards can facilitate facade improvement programs.
But not under this plan.
Yeah, they can do, TIRZ can do a lot of things, but it depends on how the plan is written by the organizers, and then that'll tell you what can be done or can't be done. And the way that ours is written, the work that can be done is, if I read it correctly, and I encourage you to read it again, it's on public property.
Public infrastructure.
So if it's not public, now, this doesn't mean you can't incentivize something, saying, listen, building owner, you're interested in your building, the facade and all of this. We can help in the street part. How can we do streetscape down your way? If you can get 2 or 3 of your adjacent owners to work on a facade project for your facades, we can help do something on the street so that combined, the work you've done and we've done helps out.
Right.
So then now you're working on the public part of it, but you're complementing whatever's being done, even architecturally maybe, so that it coordinates and it looks well, et cetera, et cetera. And now you're leveraging the public funds with the private fund dollars without necessarily contributing to the facade. True, it could be in other TIRZ, in other cities, the way it was written. It was not the way this one
I
particularly.
mean, this one, if I read
So you would
through,
do sidewalk improvements, lighting improvements, seating improvements.
I guess the only thing that
it says
was,
here, major public improvements to
Trees
provide new
and-
and/or reconstructed public improvements,
Right.
serve properties within the zone along with streetscape, landscape beautification, lighting, traffic signalization, security infrastructure, urban design components.
Well, I
would
guess-
imagine you can even do, curb and gutter improvements and actual street.
right, so I guess the data would help us. I mean, we haven't as a board said, our first project is gonna be, this block or whatever block. We haven't focused on that yet, but maybe this data will help us say, hey, all these building permits are going here on this block, maybe we can start from there and work our way out.
You'll see that, what is, the 13th, 14th, and 1500 block of the there's been like 6 bars that have kind of already filed or in the process of filing for their HABC permit. They've already got it posted. So. that's-
Yeah, when you do your walking tour, you ought to do that on a Friday or Saturday night, so you can get a real idea of what's happening out there.
And then we do know about particular joining things. The only thing that has been talked about in terms of joining, where you would go, where you would move, there's a mention of the outlet mall and downtown area and connecting. How, it doesn't tell you how to do it or how, but that's where they talk about where they envision TIRZ helping out. That's what they're talking about. So we do know one area there, the writers of the program thought of. Did you have any other comments? I think the more we talk about this, the more I'm coming to the realization that although the zone is this big, really where the money, and we know we don't have that much money, but what we're gonna be affecting is, we're gonna be connecting or trying to connect mall, convention center, art center, and that's our zone, which by the way happens to be primary zone 1 that's on that list. But that's what it seems like. But we need to walk it. And if we're all in agreement, then we can start focusing on those areas.
I mean, at least that's what I recall, one of their comments, was making this particular primary area walkable, how
Yeah.
do we attract the people that are in the outlet, which is this purple area, into the yellow section and then connect.
And vice versa.
And the way the sidewalks are built is critical to that, to how comfortable a walking
Yes.
experience
Exactly.
is. And right now, it's
I think two of the critical components are gonna be the sidewalks and the lighting,
Yeah.
to start off with, just to kind of,
Yeah.
on the upscale, but then you always start having all the infrastructure underneath, but above ground, that's the two critical ones.
Very good. Okay. The chair would like to entertain a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned.
3:34.
That's how I should have said it.
so sad about half the sidewalk.
Monty, can I give you this?
Yes.
Thank you very much.